Welcome to Cordkillers, the world of entertainment is turned upside down, and we're just trying to find out how to watch what we want, where we want, whenever we want. I'm Tom Merritt. Where's the good stuff, Brian?
Oh my God, it's apparently in my heart and in my mind, and most importantly, already in progress. I'm not entirely sure what happened. It's not even clear whether or not we're just going to roll with the punches on this one or what.
Yeah.
But we meant to click go live on YouTube, but instead the theme music is playing, and I guess we've started the show, Tom. How do you explain this show to the uninitiated?
We now live in an incredible superposition where we could at any moment stop and say, let's just start over and begin the show for real, or this is the show. You know, if you're listening to this later than Tuesday, August 12th, we don't right now.
And I'll tell you what, the only way out is through. So for the uninitiated, for those just joining us for the very first time as we stream live at youtube.com/modernrogue, Cordkillers has a long and storied history. We not only predicted the cord-cutting revolution, we caused it. We sat there and laughed and cackled in our journalistic thrones from on high as one by one mighty cable fell. And then like feral tribal gods, we became hungry and we looked out upon the wastes and we said, we should do a show about the reckoning for what damage we hath wrought. And so now Cordkillers Reckoning is the show all about how to watch what you want, when you want, on whatever dang device you please, because we won. The good guys won, Tom.
Yeah, if it helps, imagine Brian and I standing over the corpse of cable television and going, now what?
We killed cable. Now we're hungry. So where's the good stuff?
And that's what we tell you in the supply run.
Supply run, supply run, supply run.
Oh, speaking of deaths, Brian, I have another one for you. Sadly, Disney announced that starting in 2026, it will close its Hulu app.
Now, hold on. Does that mean all of they've been very tricksy with the Hulu brand? At first, I thought it was very strange to wedge the same place I go to watch FX's The Shield next to all of my children's Disney programming, but they very deftly massaged in Hulu as one of their main verticals, one of the columns of the sub-branding of Disney Plus. Now, when you say Hulu's going away, it makes me think, oh no, the cable service Hulu Plus, the website Hulu,
Don't
the
put
vertical?
words in my mouth, Brian Brushwood. I said it will close its Hulu app. Hulu content is all still going to be available in the Disney Plus app at that point in 2026. This isn't happening until next year. And here's one fun one for you, Brian. Hulu Live TV, which if you're not aware is in the Hulu app, but it's live TV and you have to pay extra for it, gives you like a cable type service, will move to the Fubo app.
Now talk me through that one. Fubo is the sports one.
Yeah. Fubo is now jointly run by Disney and Fubo. Disney also announced that its $30 a month ESPN streaming service will launch on August 21st. That is now going to carry the NFL network content for the NFL, which ESPN will operate. That will also carry 3 games from the NFL in the NFL season on ESPN. Well, on ESPN's app, because it's on the NFL network. It will include RedZone from that network. RedZone is the one where you just get to see when anybody's near scoring a touchdown or kicking a field goal. That will also be in the ESPN streaming network. And starting in 2026, ESPN picks up rights from NBC to stream WWE events. That includes Royal Rumble, Survivor Series, and SummerSlam. Those won't be in the Disney Plus app or in the Hulu app, which is going away. Those will be in an ESPN app that you'll have to pay $30 a month to stream from.
Okay, so we've been talking about this upcoming, again, the ESPN app. Where are we at on names? They keep changing them on us again and again.
The ESPN streaming service app will be called ESPN.
Well, it's catchy. Maybe they should have started with that and stuck with it.
No
or maybe
plus,
they went the right
no
way. I don't
Max, no anything. It's no now, no go. It's just ESPN.
Well, so this is the one that's most hotly anticipated. And for the long timers, we had been talking about how one of our gripes with traditional cable television was that non-sports fans, like your boy, would get frustrated at the fact that we had to subsidize to the tune of like $30 or $40 per month a bunch of channels that I didn't watch because ESPN was charging fees for everyone. And there was a lot of buying one thing, but then carving up the pie in unusual ways out there. And one of the questions that we had is, what does everything look like when you carve out that sports subsidy and make sports networks compete on their own merit in the open market? And do we have, what do you think, Tom? Is ESPN about to make all of the money with its streaming apps?
We're not done yet, Brian.
Oh, all right.
ESPN launches on August 21st. That's the same day that Fox One will launch. Fox One is a streaming service of all the Fox properties. So you get Fox News, you get the Fox Broadcast Network, and you get Fox Sport, FS1 and FS2. You will be able to bundle ESPN's $30 a month service with Fox One's $20 a month service for a total price of $40 a month. So you save $10. That will give you almost all the sports that was expected to be in the sports bundle called Venu, which would have also included sports from Warner Brothers Discovery. Venu was sued by Fubo. Fubo was like, you're not letting us get the sports at a decent rate. You're collaborating and creating a monopoly by doing Venu. We're going to sue you. They settled out of court, and Disney agreed to take a stake in Fubo, which is where Hulu Live is going to end up and why Hulu Live is going to end up in Fubo. And now ESPN and Fox have teamed up and left out Warner Brothers Discovery to do a bundle of their own.
Okay. Now, to the uninitiated, everything we said so far sounds an awful lot like the comedy country classic, I Am My Own Grandpa. There
Yes.
was a lot of circling back around and who did what to whom. If we're speaking purely in the present tense,
Yes, ask away.
Our big takeaways are ESPN's live offering is finally happening this month or already?
ESPN and Fox One both go live in 9 days, August 21st.
Great. Okay. And it is an eyebrow raiser. R-A-I-S-E-R, not something that shaves your eyebrows. It is an eyebrow raiser.
An eyebrow lifter. Yes. Yeah.
that ESPN sorry, which content is going on Fubo?
Fubo is getting Hulu Live.
Right.
Hulu Live has Fox Sports, ESPN Sports, CBS Sports, et cetera, et cetera.
Tom, I believe in the branding world, we call this an apocalypse, where there's massive.
There's a technical term for this.
I mean, look, understand that, yes, I am not a sportsy person, but quite literally, our job has been to follow all of this for the last 15 plus years. And yet, you keep telling me how it's going to be, and I'm confused. And what I assume the marketplace is going to do is exactly what I'm doing, which is make the decision that the moment I want something, I'm just going to Google it, find out where to get it, and get the service, which makes me very curious about how easy the onboarding and offboarding is.
And you're probably going to see a lot of these kind of bundles, which are going to be confusing for a while. But if they are the bundles you want, it will actually make things simpler. ESPN will also be able to be bundled with Disney Plus still, and Hulu. By the way, Hulu content is still something you have to pay extra to add on to Disney Plus, just in case if you were starting to figure this out. It's not that you get Hulu with Disney Plus. You get Disney Plus and then you add Hulu on as like an add-on to it. And then you can add ESPN
hold on, but
to that too.
There is some Hulu content that is included. There's
some that's included, and there's some ESPN content that's included in Disney Plus. But if you want to get all of Hulu, you have to subscribe to it separately. and that requires you to add it on. Same for ESPN and ESPN Plus, which will also stick around as a brand. ESPN Plus is all the sport that aren't on ESPN on cable. Because people already subscribe to that and they might not want to pay $30 a month, that will stick around. However, if you pay $30 a month, you get all of the ESPN Plus stuff too. What the reason this is so confusing is that we had a model called cable that everyone hated, but it was simple. I paid way too much a month and I got whatever they gave me and I didn't have a choice, right? It was very simple, but everyone hated it because you didn't get a choice and you were paying for things you didn't want, et cetera, et cetera. Then you and I came in along with a bunch of other people and just smashed that and said, let's not do that anymore. And these are the shards. So right now we're picking up the shards of that model and we're replacing them. Once we're done replacing them, it'll be a little more complicated than cable, but it'll make sense. But we're in the middle of that, like, oh my God, there's shards everywhere. Where do they all go? Let's try these over here. No, that doesn't work. Move them over here. And so everybody's criticizing as if it is a finished model, where we're actually in the process of figuring out what that new model should be.
So let me make a pitch for this being terribly, terribly dumb is actually secretly possibly brilliant. And I thought that this was an apocryphal story that was total BS, but it turns out it's 100% true. There was some university, and I'm betting somebody can get Google or ChatGPT to figure it out while I'm saying it. There was a university that had all the buildings built, but then they were all fussing about how the sidewalks should be designed. And it turns out nobody had a particularly precious design on the sidewalk. They were all just arguing about which way they thought would be the best layout for sidewalks. And so the agreement was, you know what? We have to start the semester anyway. Let's say we just watch the students, and wherever the natural footpaths are, we'll go ahead and codify after the fact. Now, the mere fact that I am experiencing tremendous brand confusion in this moment, and again, I'd like to think I'm B+ at least on keeping up with this stuff, indicates to me that they are, A, not going out of their way to demystify this entire process, which implies, B, maybe that's part of it. When you're telling a joke, when you're on stage, when you're dealing with a crowd, you want to get that feedback for what the world is pregnant for or anticipating or what they want or what's easy. And by not giving clear instructions, that gives them freedom to kind of track the organic growth, because what people say they're going to do isn't necessarily what they actually do. And I think this could be a case where they're just watching how stuff goes. And then once they have data to work with, they know people are understanding this kind of messaging. They're not understanding this type of messaging. We need to hammer hard on this clarity, et cetera, et cetera.
I mean, yes, but isn't that just what's called business? Isn't that what every business does all the time? We just happen to see it because we've got new models taking place in real time in front of us.
Yes, as you can see in this chart, I just drew a circle and wrote the word Earth. I think that explains everything. I mean, yes, at some point you can't back away too far.
Yeah.
I'm trying really hard to find the interesting story, which is, how is it possible for such a poorly communicated thing to make sense? And it could be anything from lack of resources or lack of initiative or I don't know.
I think it doesn't make sense because we're not used to things changing this fast. We're used to a slow motion change. We had two big changes in the lifetime of anybody who's likely to listen to this. The first was television came in the 50s. So the oldest people will remember that. Like, oh, right, we just had radio and then there was television.
Oh my God, if there is one person who remembers, who has actual raw memories of before their family got a television, please write us, Cordkillers@gmail.com.
I'm guessing there might be a couple, probably not a lot, right? And then the next big change was cable. And that was when people went like, what? You want me to pay for television? Television's free. It comes over the air. I have to watch advertising. You want me to pay for this thing that you have to like connect to my house and I still have to watch advertising? Well, guess what? It was incredibly successful and everyone paid for it eventually to the tune of hundreds of millions of households in the United States. And now and that took decades, right? Cable started in the 70s. It wasn't until the 90s that it really reached penetration. So we're talking about 20 20-year change, right? Slowly people got cable. Now we're going from cable was the model 10 years ago to cable is dead. So we're seeing everybody going like, there's no playbook for this. We didn't plan it to happen this way. Netflix just came along and became very popular, and the internet came along and was undermining everybody's ability to get things without us having to hook up a special cable to it. So let's try stuff out. I do think this makes sense if you project it out where we're going to have several things that have the majority of the content, and you will decide whether you want that particular brand or not from month to month. And we got another story coming later this show that might indicate it would be less than month to month. It could even be week to week. But you won't have to get ESPN if you're not a sports fan anymore, because you have ESPN in its own app, and you can decide, you know what, I don't really watch anything on NBC, so I'm not going to get Peacock. I'm just going to get these two. And we're going to consolidate and have a few of those. And then there'll be some niche ones for people who are really into various niche kinds of content. But for the most part, everything will be consolidated in, I don't know, 3 to 5 services is my guess.
I really liked the way that you referred to this as almost like a change of epochs, because you're right. We've talked before about how broadcast was the initial run. You had your ABC, CBS, NBC, and then later your Fox or whatever. And first movers had an advantage. In cable, there was a great reshuffling because if you were dominant in broadcast, you didn't invest in cable because you just assumed, why would I be in cable? I'm NBC. And so NBC was late to the party, but meanwhile, first movers like HBO, Turner Networks, etc., had already established. And so CNBC didn't do well until it found the unoccupied niche of business programming. And we knew that we're entering another epoch of streaming content, but it had not occurred to me, Tom, is that there might be different flavors of streaming in sort of a BCAD kind of way, where there's streaming as kind of cable plus, but now there's streaming as, I don't know, everywhere, ubiquitous. And from a branding perspective, it's fascinating because the method of finding the content used to be paramount. It used to be incredibly important to say the website or the phone number or whatever. But now with the incoming AI abundance wave, all that matters is the real estate in the mind, the word. If you just know the letters ESPN, if you know the magic word Hulu, just start talking to any robot anywhere, and before you know it, it'll be in front of your face.
Yeah, and I think we're a little ways off from that. That may be the next epoch, and that next epoch might come really fast. I'm not saying it, you're going to have to wait 30 years for it. But you are going to get to a point where there is friction between the service providers wanting to control the relationship with the customer and the service that can take advantage of the service providers and say, yeah, they just want to watch the soccer game. They don't care if it's on Fox or ESPN or anything like that. How do we do that? Let me plug in the plumbing behind the scenes. But anything that makes one of these services be a dumb pipe is going to be resisted. That's why it took as long as it took for cable to start to die, because the service providers didn't want to give up that relationship to streaming. And now streaming is going to have the same problem. They're not going to want to give up the relationship to some kind of agentic AI. They're going to want to keep it. And we're going to see resistance to that as well.
Oh, that's interesting. We had talked previously about the danger of mass balkanization, the idea that post-cable, we would have too many individual $9.99 subscriptions, and you couldn't possibly keep track of them all. Then we did see some consolidation into that traditional 3 to 5.
And we're seeing more of those bundles, like the Fox one with ESPN, et cetera. Yeah.
But now with agentic search, I wonder if we're at the precipice of possibly another wave of balkanization, where everybody understands that when distribution is free, when hosting is free, when discovery is free, when essentially your platform is free, it becomes, I don't know, it's a very interesting middle time, I think.
Yeah. Because the next step, the future, the thing that isn't here yet, but we can see the shape of it, is I tell my assistant, I want to watch these series, and I want to watch these sports and these award shows, and it goes and it adds the subscriptions you need and cancels the subscriptions you need, and does it all for you. And all you have to do is say, assistant, show me this episode, or I want to watch is the Oscars on yet? I want to watch it live. And it will make sure that the right streaming service brings it to you. And that's what Netflix and Apple TV Plus and all of those companies are going to resist, because they want you to come in through the Netflix door. They don't want someone to just stream it to you without you knowing what service it's on.
Yeah, it makes me wonder how long do you think that lag is before a structural change is made? Because we have entire businesses that are based on the idea that you pay for, look, all you can eat buffets essentially are a form of gambling. You pay an amount and they hope you eat the cheapest enough stuff that they can stay in business, and they don't want you to pay that amount and then go straight for the most expensive stuff. Same thing's true with your cable bundles, same thing's true with your streaming bundles. And in a world where we reach an efficient market where AIs are able to flip on and flip off individual subscriptions to where, from the customer perspective, it's the same as though you are instantly just getting the one thing, then they have to do some kind of reshuffling to get back to that all-you-can-eat model, right?
Well, they're going to cut off the assistants and say, you can't use our service unless you reach an agreement with us. So your bot is blocked from subscribing and unsubscribing until you reach an agreement with us. And then that will be very interesting. What do those agreements look like? Does it mean that the logo has to show up when you're talking to your chatbot? Does it mean that the chatbot is required to recommend a couple of other shows you might like? I have no idea. I'm just taking stabs now, but I'm pretty convinced that what we're seeing right now with publishers of news, where they're trying to cut off the bots from scraping them for training, is going to happen to streamers who are going to try to stop the agents from subscribing and unsubscribing.
Yes. There's a lot of numbers that are about to become meaningless.
Well, there's going to be a fight to try to stop them from becoming meaningless too, right?
Right, right.
The one number that will never become meaningless is the number of patrons we have, though.
You know what? It's so important that neither of us know it. We keep it locked in a little box. We close our eyes and we pray to our patrons every night. We say, thank you, patrons. Thank you for going to patreon.com/cordkillers. Thank you for keeping us loud, live, and independent as we cover the cord cutting revolution, possibly having caused it, and report on how to get all the good stuff. As a reward to you, patron, we give to you the early access to the full experience. That's where we watch the first, ultimate, lowest, and last episode of every series. This week, we're actually starting our run of Bonanza, and you also get exclusive access to our After Talk segment, which is going to be an especially juicy behind-the-scenes tell-all about what I discovered at DEF CON, which even Tom doesn't even know what I'm about to talk about.
I don't, and I can't wait to find out. You're going to want it too. Patreon.com/cordkillers. Let's move on to the search party. Brian, have you been sucked into the One Piece universe yet?
No, in fact, I made a decision when I watched this trailer. I was like, is that a video game? Is that an anime or whatever? I was like, it'd be fun. I'm gonna try just watching it and guessing what it is. Pretty clearly an anime, Tom.
Yes, One Piece was an anime, and Netflix turned it into a live action version of the anime, and now it's very popular. Netflix has released a trailer for season 2 of One Piece, subtitled Into the Grand Line. It has already approved a third season, and the second season will debut on Netflix in 2026. Don't have a fixed date yet, but One Piece is one of the most popular television shows in the world.
Tom.
Yes, Brian.
I am not. Let me be absolutely clear about this. I am not accusing this show or this trailer. I am not accusing it of using agentic created video. But if they were to, wouldn't it look an awful lot like how this trailer looks?
No, really? Actually, I didn't watch the trailer because I didn't want to be
really?
spoiled.
Okay.
So
It was extremely rubbery. It was extremely noisy. It was extremely...
I think they do a lot of CG in this show, but I don't know that it's agentic. Maybe they did an agentic edit on the trailer. I don't know.
Well, it looks an awful lot like it could be made in VO very quickly. Like this type, I don't know how many human hours went into it. And part of the reason I'm teeing this up is because of the stark contrast between this trailer versus the next one we're about to talk about. This one, if you told me it was totally AI generated, I would have believed you. Keep in mind, part of this is informed
I think it looks, I'm now scrubbing through it. I think it looks better than that.
It does for now. But
and I think it's the style of One Piece that you're reacting to.
There's that too. And I'm wondering how quickly we're turning a corner where, because we can't tell how much effort went into it, people are going to refuse to give it a chance. And the whole point of outrageous visuals is because they're difficult to do. But if they're not difficult to do, then why tune in for it? There's a reason that we all tuned in to watch the late Felix Baumgartner jump from the edge of space. It's because it was an actual human doing an actual crazy thing who might actually die. But it wouldn't quite have the impact, despite being note for note the exact same visual, if we knew it was all on a green screen and he was going to be okay.
Why do you hate the most popular TV show on the planet?
I love it. I love it. I am just wondering, you know what? Let's move on to the next
Brian's
trailer.
just asking questions.
Yeah.
Actually, this isn't a trailer. This is a moment in time that we'll never get back because it's over already. But for a brief period last week, Amazon Prime's War of the Worlds, starring Ice Cube, had a 0% on Rotten Tomatoes. And to get it 0%, that means every single reviewer, and this is when they were able to debut it with enough reviews in to qualify for a score, none of them had given it a point. And
keep in mind, there's always somebody who wants to say, it has its flaws, but... Usually. In this case, the one positive review was like, it's hilarious, but... You would think that there would be more people cheering for it being hilariously bad, which means it's not even hilarious. Somebody just wanted to see what it felt like to be the only one. By the way, as I scrolled through the reviewers' names, I was pleased to see your friend of mine, Corey Coleman of Double Toasted, in there. So at any rate, it was, apparently it's a very COVID era, like what
it was shot during COVID with those kind of restrictions. And I guess it was held until now. Like it was done a while ago. And it is a version of the War of the World story that is apparently very bad. And now, I think because the press got out that it was 0%, reviewers were like, well, I don't know if it's 0%. And people started to give it scores. It's now, Brian, all the way up to 3%.
Yep. Well, then I will give it 3% of its watch time. Whoops, I already did.
Oh, it's a cult watch already. People are watching it. They're hate watching it. Paramount has bought the rights to bring 30 of the UFC's fight nights and 13 marquee events to Paramount Plus subscribers for 7 years, starting next year, 2026. ESPN had the rights and did a lot of them as pay-per-view. But now you'll just get them as part of a Paramount Plus subscription. We don't know if you'll need the Paramount Plus Premium subscription, the one that includes Showtime. My guess is you probably will. They haven't said that, but you won't have to pay per view.
Yay.
Apple has released the premiere date and a first look of Mr. Scorsese. It's 5-part documentary about Mr. Scorsese, Martin Scorsese, directed by Rebecca Miller. Series will premiere on October 17th and offer, quote, unrestricted access to Scorsese's private archives.
I am interested in this. I'm waiting to hear that it's super, super good, and then I'll watch it.
Yeah. No, it's one of those documentaries where you're like, okay, they got access, but how much did they actually use? Because to get access, you have to get approvals and people get a say, and et cetera, et cetera. Finally, that trailer you were talking about, Sony Pictures has released an official behind-the-scenes vignette for Spider-Man Brand New Day. This gives a look at the first day of production. So you're seeing scenes from the movie, but you're seeing the making of them versus the produced version of them. So you see Tom Holland in the Spidey suit. You see him interact with fans not as part of the story, but like people behind a barricade that are watching the shoot happen. He appears to be on a tank, which is careening down the street, and he's trying to rip the top off. Pretty typical superhero stuff. Not very spoilery.
Yeah. Well, and what's interesting is this used to be the kind of thing that in these scarcer times, in the before times, we would have salivated over because we were like, oh my God, there's going to be some moment he's going to open a tank at some point. A tank in New York City. Can you imagine such a thing? But I got to tell you, Tom, it was really weird watching this right after that One Piece trailer that was so rubbery and plasticky, and we assume provisionally all made by humans.
It was all made by humans. I don't know why you're doubting that at all. This is a show that has been shot already one season, and they are doing a second season.
But my point there being, in 6 months, there'll be a bigger question mark over every type of content like that. Whereas this seemed to be going out of its way to re-emphasize the humans in the audience, the live viewers, and the challenging aspects of shots. There's a line being blurred. You know what it is? It's the same vibes as being a magician in the age of television. To make magic play on television, they had to do massive amounts of throat clearing where they pinky swore up and down that you're seeing everything on TV exactly as the audience sees at home. And that chess game, that all worked until different magicians started bending the rules where it's like technically that's what the camera was looking at, but massive amounts of things were being done off screen. And then maybe the camera appeared to go back to the same spot, but it was a different location. And then they stopped saying that at all, and it became all fake, and magic on TV was a problem. And then it took David Blaine to figure out, no, the smart thing is don't even look at me. Who cares what I'm doing? Turn around, show the audience. They're the best part. I think we're going through a version of that now that everyone is a magician with AI. It's not enough to have incredible visuals because incredible visuals by themselves are about to be very, very cheap. Instead, it's turn the camera on the audience. And I think that's why we're getting live events that are closer to movies and movies that are closer to live events. That's the weird tug that I felt.
Well, this is just a trailer, right? So I think you don't want to overinterpret this too much, but I get what you're saying, which is I had a similar thought, which is, back in the 20s, you didn't even want your movie stars to be seen in person because the idea was like, no, they are whatever character is on screen and nobody else. Then it became okay. Like, oh, we get to see them at the Oscars and see that they're humans and everything. And then it became like, yeah, but we don't want to show how the movie is made. You want to keep the movie magic, right? And then eventually people became aware how movies are made and you got behind the scenes and making of, and they were very popular. I think now we've gotten to the point where people are so sophisticated in movies that you can just put the behind the scenes. It's not special anymore. Like, yeah, we all know how movies are made. Show me Tom Holland making the movie so I know you've started. And yeah, let some fans on set so they can see it too. As long as it's not the twist, I don't really care that he was, taking the top off of a tank. And it shows me like, they're working hard. It's underway. And that's what he looks like in the Spidey suit. Great. It only whets my appetite for the final production.
Yeah, and I think that I've softened on my stance about like what is and isn't a spoiler, what is and isn't the performance itself. Like we've started watching this movie, Tom. We've now seen 2 pixels of the entire movie, 2 little narrative pixels that will eventually inform the entire self-repeating fractal of whatever this movie is.
Yeah. It's funny. If you were to say to someone, I've seen 5 minutes of this movie, so I don't need to see the rest of the movie, most people would say, what are you crazy? Like 5 minutes isn't going to tell you the whole movie. Watch the whole movie. But if we see a minute of a movie, people are like, I've been spoiled. Now the movie's ruined. And it's like, well, which way is it? Have you seen the whole movie with a minute or have you not?
Oh, man.
I think this is leaning that way.
Then we really get into the weeds. We get into 2 a.m. college dorm thoughts where it's like, well, did you really read the book if you didn't read the original, not the translation? Or did you really read it if you read the written word when it was an oral, the Iliad was an oral presentation? I don't know.
Yeah. And the fact is, you can have it whatever way you want. Just watch stuff and enjoy it. If you get the story, you get the story. That's great. In fact, that's what Buried Treasure is all about.
Most people want to know why they suddenly got rich.
Buried treasure.
Now, Brian, I know you were at DEF CON this entire last week, and Buried Treasure is about us informing people of things we've watched. Did you have time to watch anything?
I'll tell you what, all the flights were booked for the end of going back to Austin run on Sunday evening. So I got a 5 a.m. flight Monday morning. Is today's Tuesday? Yeah.
Yes.
So I got in yesterday morning, which meant I had Sunday night free. So I went and saw Penn and Teller at the Rio. That's the closest thing to a television program that I watched that
You saw
week.
live television.
That's right. That's right. It was great.
How is Penn and Teller at the Rio these days?
Man, they're in their 50th anniversary tour. They're gearing up to go to Radio City Music Hall. They are, well, actually, I don't want to spoil anything. They have an ambitious nested set of routines that at the end had the audience leaping to their feet. That's all I'm going to say.
Fantastic. Well, I was here with a couch and a television, and so I watched the first 4 episodes of Netflix's Wednesday. I'm a big fan. I think it's fun. I think it looks cool. It's got that weird Addams Family Gothic style. I think Catherine Zeta-Jones being in it more this season was a smart move. She kills it. Jenna Ortega is still great as Wednesday, and they've come up with a way to keep the plot fresh. And I love, in fact, I wrote about this in my newsletter on Friday. I love that they only gave me 4 episodes. It's an 8-episode season. And I was almost resisting starting it because I'm like, I don't have time to watch 8 episodes. And then I saw there were only 4 and I relaxed. I'm like, oh yeah, 4. I could probably do that. And then I'll wait till September 3rd to watch the other 4. I thought that was great. So Wednesday, I recommend it. It's a really good show.
Where does it stand? Give me a greater than, less than, better than blank, not as good as blank.
It is not as good as The Wire. No, that's shooting too high.
Bold move.
Like, what's a more comparable show?
Something in the spooky space.
Yeah. It's not as good as What We Do in the Shadows. It's also not exactly comparable because it's comedic, but it's not trying to be as comedic.
What about
as
like
that.
Dirk Gently's Holistic Detective Agency?
It's not comparable to that at all.
Okay.
Because that was only a season or so, and it's a Hitchhiker's Guide thing. But it's better than Haunting of Hill House.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Keeping it in the
maybe
Netflix
better
range.
than Lock and Key.
Yeah. It's also a little more comedic than Lock and Key, which was not comedic in any way. But it's to me it's a vibe watch, not to get too Gen Z with my lingo. But you're watching it less because you want to be thrilled by the story and more that you just really enjoy the performance and the look of it.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a very Netflix kind of move, honestly. If you got something we should be on the lookout for, email us cordkillers@gmail.com. I know we're going to talk about it on After Talk, but do you have anything to tease people about, Brad?
Yeah, we're going to talk about it during After Talk. And as a matter of fact, I sent out an email. You know what? Sign up for my email list. I realized recently that my email list, outside of talking about it in this one slot, I don't push it very hard and I don't make it very easy to get to. It's just sort of at some point, either you buy something from the store or you enter a giveaway. So it seems to be shockingly organic, but I teased the observation that I made out at DEF CON. There is an unfathomable wave of AI-powered scams. In the world of scams, there's nothing new under the sun. There's only so many story structures. If you think that Hollywood is restricted to only a few types of stories, buckle up for the world of scams. There's only a very few, but they all rely on the same levers of fame and shame, and that's what the podcast World's Greatest Con is all about. So I had suspected that AI abundance is going to make profitable a bunch of scams that previously were not profitable. I was not prepared for how shockingly exponential the numbers are. Year after year, 2,000% increase year over year in reported scams, which means there's a lot more. 2024 broke all records for reported AI-assisted impersonation scams, deepfakes, you name it. 2025, we're already past that number. And as I was floating around DEF CON, I knew what the obvious solution was. This 20-year vet of scam school, of magic, of deception, this debunker of pseudoscience and the paranormal. So I kept asking security firms what they do to stop it. And I was shocked, Tom. I was shocked at how wrong everybody's doing it. And this is, if you've listened to World's Greatest Con, you probably have an idea of some of the core things that I think are absolutely urgent for this. And this is all the stuff we're going to talk about in After Talk to the patrons who head on over to patreon.com/Cordkillers.
All right, let's move on to Scan the Horizon in Scanning the Horizon.
Send a scanning to abort.
Scanning the horizon!
All right, so this kind of informs our conversation from the top of the show. Sling TV is going to sell you a day pass to watch its service. You can also get a weekend or a week-long pass as well if you just need to watch the game or the award show, or you're like, I'm babysitting and I don't subscribe to Disney Channel, but here, let me subscribe to this and can for a day have the kids watch this. The passes give you access to everything in the Sling Orange plan. Vets of Cordkillers will understand the complications of the orange and the blue plan of Sling TV. The short version for anybody who doesn't is the orange plan offers you ESPN, but not Fox Sports. And the blue plan gives you Fox Sports, but not ESPN. Sling also doesn't carry CBS at all, so you're not even going to get CBS in these day passes. But yeah, the orange plan will get you ESPN and broadcast networks in your area for most areas. So you probably get NBC and ABC. The day pass costs you $5. Weekend pass costs you $10. A week long pass is $15 versus a month of the orange plan would be $46. And you can also do the add-ons. They have sports and kids and news and entertainment add-ons. That's $1 for a day, $2 for the weekend, or $3 for the week.
This is, I think, really fascinating. The idea that sports events as like singles versus the album. Like, I don't need the whole album. I don't need a whole ongoing subscription. I just want to do the one thing. And if they do this right, those single one shots will, I can see, or maybe I'm thinking more of a pay-per-view thing, but I like the idea of just like, no, of course you're not going to buy a whole album. Who needs those? It's crazy. Here's just a song. Here's another song. Here's a third song. Oh, well, I mean, at this point, you really probably should have bought the album, but don't pay attention to that.
Yeah, no, I think there's a little bit of like, let's get people to try us. Let's keep the barrier to entry low. I also think there's a demand for this where people are like, yeah, I just want to watch the thing. How do I watch the thing? I don't want to subscribe to anything. I don't want to have a recurring charge. Can I just pay to watch it today? And Sling is stepping up and saying, yes, somehow we convinced the networks in our orange plan to take a smaller cut in return for you giving us money. So congratulations, you can pay us $5.
Yeah, I like that.
Spoiler, people did not stop going to the movies, Brian. Remember in 2020 and 2021, we were constantly talking about like, what's going to get people back into the theaters? Are people going to, and there were legitimate friends of mine who were convinced like, yeah, no one's going to the theaters anymore. Those are all going, everybody's just going to watch things at home. Movies won't be released exclusively in the theaters. All wrong. AMC Entertainment, the largest U.S. and global theater chain, says revenues rose 35% last quarter. CEO Adam Aron called the latest numbers a combination of recovering industry-wide box office and the undeniable fact that both AMC and Odeon, a competitor, are executing so well. Odeon is Europe's largest theater chain. During its earnings call, AMC also said it thinks it can cut 4 to 5 minutes from the gargantuan 25 to 30-minute pre-movie string of trailers and ads. But don't worry, they'll do it by reducing trailers or cutting down AMC's own promos. They'll keep the number of ads the same.
That is a fascinating phenomenon where it used to be that seeing movie trailers was a treat unto itself. And then that got corrupted by first, straight up ads being blended in there, but also like, I don't know, that we talked about the story bleeding out into outside areas. Like, when does the movie going experience begin? It used to begin the morning of beforehand, when you would check movie times in the newspaper beforehand, or call the number. And then there'd be kind of a little slice of news of the movie world. But I don't know how I feel about it.
Yeah, I think it is clear that while theater going has reduced some, it has not reduced nearly as much as people expected. And they have created movies that are bringing people back into the theaters. AMC is doing well. Like, these revenue numbers are great. And so we're back to complaining about the pre-rolls. That's a good place for theater owners to be in. Now, AMC Entertainment is the theater company. AMC Networks is a different company that does streaming of like AMC TV or BBC America. AMC Networks saw an 18% drop in U.S. ad sales, but a 12% increase in revenue for streaming. So clearly the dying business is cable, because that's where that ad sale drop came from. Whereas streaming is doing well. Streaming subscribers increased 2% to 10.4 million during the quarter. AMC, one of the smaller streamers out there. It operates AMC Plus, Acorn, Shudder, Sundance Now, All Black, and High Dive. So these are all, for the most part, kind of niche content offerings that you as a person may or may not feel like you have to have them, but I'm really into horror, so I'm going to add Shudder, that kind of thing. Yeah,
and I suppose out there are some number of, I guess, whales who are just like, all the services, I say yes to everything. I don't know who they are.
Even when they say yes to everything, a lot of times you'll be like, so High Dive? And they're like, oh, I didn't know that existed, right?
Because there's some problem, right?
Yeah, exactly. Warner Brothers Discovery said it gained 3.4 million global streaming subscribers last quarter, thanks in part to international expansion. JB Perrette, who is the head of streaming and gaming at Warner, said that messaging to consumers about account sharing is going to get more aggressive. The media company is going to close the loopholes by the end of 2025, with the impact starting to appear in its financials by next year. The way they described it is like, we're going to stop asking nicely. And then by the end of 2025, we're going to stop just asking. So we're not going to see them really do anything super, like stopping your service from working until next year.
Yeah, this surprises me, because I don't know who has a reasonable expectation of anything other than, if you are sharing a password, they don't let you in. And there's a big old, like, this looks like too many accounts on here, just sign up.
I think the reason,
just flip a switch on that.
Everybody is looking at what others have done, like Netflix and Disney Plus, who've gone before them, and realizing the slower you go, the less public backlash you get, the less negative publicity you get. So just do a like, hey, don't share an account. And 5% of people are like, oh, I got caught. Okay, I'll sign up. Then do it like, you're not allowed to do this. You're in violation of your terms. And then you get another 10%. Oh, now I'm really scared.
Yeah, although these smaller, just like those other guys pioneered the reality that at some point sharing a password is going to bite you in the butt. They traded their way up into the public consciousness by, I'm sure Netflix loved the idea whenever a family comedy would make a joke about, I share my password with everyone. They got the awareness bump. And so they probably did have to slow walk the rollback. But at this point, now it feels like the public consciousness, it's not going to be a shock to the system if you are asked to pay for the service. I don't know, maybe.
The last story we have today is about broadcast television stations. Atlanta-based Gray Media has agreed to acquire television stations in 10 markets from Byron Allen's group. So it looks like Gray Media is being a buyer. I'm guessing one or two companies are going to own most of the broadcast television stations, local television stations in the U.S., and then figure out what to do with them from there. Gray expects the transaction to strengthen the company's presence in 7 other markets by creating duopolies. So they're buying some stations in markets where they already have a competing broadcast station. Meanwhile, Sinclair announced it's reviewing its options including not only selling some of its 178 broadcast stations, but also possibly breaking up the company into smaller units. That could be broadcast stations as its own unit, and they have ventures like the tennis channel is owned by Sinclair, and they have a digital advertising unit they could spin out, stuff like that.
Do you think I'm just mapping my own reality onto this? But it seems to me that breaking into smaller units, first of all, I'm sure it makes sense on some kind of practical area, but Sinclair had a pretty stanky reputation for essentially making things sound like news that were editorial content. This was around 2016, 17, I think. Do you think that has anything to do with it, or am I just?
I think everyone's forgotten that that happened. Honestly,
Okay.
This is just more to do with the fact that people don't watch local television very much.
Yeah,
and so these stations are either going to be funded directly by their networks, or they're going to be owned by Gray, is what it sounds like to me. I shouldn't dismiss it totally out of hand. There might be some downhill results of that cause Sinclair to go into a slow decline, but there's so many other pressures on this sort of thing that could be why Sinclair isn't the Gray Media Group, right? Could have like put them on their back foot. All right, hold on for the chatter.
Got mail.
Oh, you may or may not know that we are doing Bonanza for the full experience, where we watch 4 episodes of an old television show. And George wrote in and said, hey, on the broadcast TV side of the house, cowboy shows are a big deal. Check out Me TV or Handy TV. You'll get Gunsmoke, Bonanza, Wagon Train, and several others filling the airways in between advertisements for knee braces, incontinence supplies, walking canes, and Medicare supplements. I'm guessing they're programming for us old codgers. Thanks again. GS. Appreciate that, George. Chris in Albuquerque wrote, hey, killers, just watched episode 562 and wanted to throw out a scenario that would let William Shatner appear in the new TJ Hooker. Sam Witwer of Battlestar Galactica, Being Human in the Clone Wars fame, is part of a team developing machine learning technology to enhance actors' performances. It intercepts the video stream and alters the actor's feature in real time. The idea is that actors and directors have immediate feedback. They don't have to wait for post-processing and can refine the performance and, do a second take so that it fits the transformation. It would also let studios cast vintage/expired stars without sacrificing opportunities for active living actors who would embody the performance. As a demonstration, they got permission from Shatner and the Nimoy and Roddenberry estates to create Star Trek 765874 Unification, which is a short film reuniting Kirk and Spock after death, with Witwer portraying Kirk, but you see Shatner's face. Back to TJ Hooker, Netflix could use this tech and maybe even Witwer to cast early 80s Shatner or an aged up but not 94-year-old version. Anyway, that's my baseless speculation. Keep killing the cords, Chris.
I like this even better than the idea that I speculated. I was wondering if this might be because of the quasi-comedic, outsized, cartoonish vibes of TJ Hooker. We speculated that it might be kind of like a 21 Jump Street type wink and a nod thing. And I said, maybe this would be a way to lance the boil of going full AI. But I like this idea of kind of hybrid stuff. I think a lot of people would dig it this way.
Also really smart of Sam Witwer, I gotta say, to be like not only identifying this as a viable technology, but like, and hey, I'm really experienced with it. So if you need somebody to embody this, I'm your man.
Genius, yeah.
Yeah. Finally, Zach writes, hi fellas, just found out that Netflix stopped allowing downloads through the Windows app on my laptop. Maybe I missed your report on this. I had to use AI to find out why the download option disappeared as of July 2025. None of this was on their help screens. The phone app still allows it. So thank goodness I now get to watch Netflix downloaded content on the smallest screen possible. Zach, if this helps clear up the confusion, Netflix stopped supporting its Windows app a year ago in 2024. The fact that you could continue to use it is an accident. The fact that it was able to download could be less of an accident. Netflix may have finally blocked that, but you weren't even supposed to be able to continue. It was an unsupported app for more than a year. So it's no shock that the downloads stopped working. And it's mostly because Netflix just decided that it didn't want to play in the Microsoft Store and do Microsoft Store restrictions when it had a web app, but the web app doesn't support downloads. So your other option would be to there's a way you can run Android apps on Windows, and you could get the Android version of Netflix and do it that way.
This, whenever there's something like this, like why didn't they announce it or they do it? I feel the tug of corporate conspiracy thinking, but then I have to remind myself that just to make announcements about that kind of thing requires calories in the form of paying
they
humans
announced
to do
it.
things.
Well, I'm guessing he missed the announcement from Netflix that probably popped up and said this app will no longer be supported after this date, and he's like, "Man, really? It seems like it's still working for me," and then just kept using it.
But my larger point is that when the announcement is that a thing is going away, remember that the thing is going away due to lack of interest. So announcing a thing is going away due to lack of interest means that your announcement should also reflect very quietly, don't spend a lot of calories on it.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's my point.
All right, folks, that is it for Cordkillers. Our website is cordkillers.com. Our email address is cordkillers@gmail.com, and we are live on twitch.tv/Night Attack Tuesdays at 5:30 p.m. Eastern, 2:30 p.m. Pacific. I reckon we'll talk to you next time.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.